Hi, Gemma.
Welcome in today. It's great to have you here. Would you like to just tell us a little bit about Omahu Bush?
Well, just to start with, Omahu Bush is on the Port Hills close to Christchurch. It's about 20 kilometres from Cathedral Square, and it's on the Summit Road, about 8 kilometres south of the sign of the Kiwi. So that's where it's located. Omahu Bush is owned by the Gamma Foundation, which is a charitable trust set up by my wife and I in 1995. And we have purchased various blocks of native bush in different parts of Canterbury and opened them to the public. And Omahu Bush is one of those.
What's special about Omahu Bush? How did you come about deciding to purchase it or put yourself in that situation?
Well, we're members of the Summit Road Society, and that's a society which has as its main objective the conservation of all the natural values of the Port Hills, and it has several hundred members. Quite a number of those go out on work parties once a week, doing work on the tracks on the Port Hills and spraying weeds and doing other maintenance work. And we attended a meeting of the society at which a member was giving a report, and he mentioned a large block of native bush which was beside the Summit Road, and we thought, well, that sounded rather interesting, so we asked him if he would take us there and show us. And so he did that, and we had a look at it, and we thought, well, this is really good. It was owned by a farmer at the time. We thought, well, it would be good if it could be purchased and open to the public. So we approached the farmer, and well, in due course we purchased it, and that was back in 1997.
Quite some time ago now. So, and how long has it been open to the public?
Well, we did have to put in some tracks and do other work there, but it's probably about 11 years, I guess. Well, during that time we have done some extra work and putting in extra tracks and that sort of thing. But basically it has been open for 11 years.
So when you first purchased the bush, what were some of the issues and trials that you had along the way before being able to open it up to the public?
Well, when we took over, the bush was pretty well overrun with animal pests. What had happened is that a nearby landowner had decided that he wanted to set up a game farm, and he brought in all these goats, pigs, fallow deer, game birds and other animals, and unfortunately he didn't have very good fencing, and after a while most of them escaped, and their descendants are still roaming around the Port Hills. But because this block of bush was nearby, a lot did get into this bush area. So really the first thing we had to do was try and eliminate them. So we did get hunters in to shoot the goats, and it wasn't too difficult to deal with them. We did get some other hunters with pig dogs who came and dealt to the pigs, and either killed them or frightened them off, because pigs do tend to roam around quite a lot, and so we managed to move them on. The fallow deer were a bit different because they are very elusive, and we've never really managed to get on top of them. So since then we have had shooters who've gone into the bush area and if they can, they've shot anything that they've come across that's either in there or got back in there. So that was really our first task.
And what kind of numbers of animals did you get off when you initially started the project?
Well, there were, hundreds of goats there. The farmer who had owned the land, he had actually allowed goats to remain in the bush area, and once a year he rounded them up and sent them off to the freezing works. But for some reason they then stopped taking goats, and so he just left them there. So yeah, there were really just hundreds of them there, and they were eating all the little seedlings that came up, apart from pepper tree, which has a very peppery leaf, and
Tasted that one myself.
presumably they didn't like the pepper tree, but yeah, they were stopping any natural regeneration coming up under the existing bush.
So, how do you keep the animals out of the bush now? Have you got a control program in place?
Well, we do have. Well, as I mentioned, we have the shooters. We've also got the regional council has done a lot of possum work in the area, of course, all along the hills, and so they have dealt with the possum problem. Of course, once we had got rid of all those animal pests initially, we had to put in a fence, and it's about 2 kilometres of fence we had to put along two sides of the area. There was a fence already there, but it had pretty well disintegrated and all got covered in gorse and broom and other weeds. So it was a matter of clearing that fence line in preparation for putting in another fence, and we decided that rather than having the usual 7-wire fence, which can be a problem if one wire breaks or becomes loose, because then it's easy for animals to get through. So we decided we would have sheep netting fence, and that is pretty effective at keeping animals out, although they can get under it if it's not tied down in vulnerable places. So we went ahead with that. It was quite a job clearing the fence line. About a third of it was up a very steep hill, and so that had to be done by hand. It was done at a very hot time of year, so that was quite a big job. But for the other 2/3 of the fence, we were able to use an excavator, and the driver was able to pull out all the old fence and the gorse plants and sort of bury everything. And so that created a very good line for the fencing contractor to come in and do his work.
And so that sounds like quite an expensive job, putting things in. Like,
Well,
do you have support, or?
Well, no. As I say, our charitable trust does a lot of conservation work, amongst other things. So we just thought it was all part of that. We paid for the cost of that fence, which, well, at the time it was in 1997, was over $20,000. But that was just part of it, really. So we paid those costs and various other costs associated with getting it ready for opening to the public.
And so what can the public expect when they come out to visit Omahu Bush? What is there for them to see and experience? We've got various tracks. There were already vehicle tracks there, which went around three sides of the bush, perhaps you could say. We put in walking tracks through the bush. So the walking track
went from the Summit Road, where we made a car parking area, went down through the bush, and one track ended up connecting to the end of the one vehicle track, so that there could be a round trip. Another track went to a waterfall and to the end of the other vehicle track. So we created some round trips that people could do, and we put signs up along the track naming all the various trees that were in the bush. There's quite a range of different trees there. So I think, it can just provide people with, an afternoon of walking through the bush, and considering there's very little native bush anywhere near Christchurch, I think it can provide quite a worthwhile experience for city residents.
Well, it sounds excellent too, if you've got the plants labelled, and that is an educational thing for people to go around as well and actually learn their plant.
Well, yes, certainly, yes. Because, often people just they just see a tree. Think one tree is the same as the other, but there certainly is a difference, and it is important that I think people learn the difference between the different trees.
And what about the bird life in the bush? Got any special residents living there?
Well, it's just the usual birds, and of course the birds do move around according to the food supply. But we do have bellbirds and pigeons, and quite a number of other birds. On one occasion we did get report of a tui in there, but that was some years ago. We haven't had a report like that since. As I mentioned, there was a game farm nearby, so there are pheasants and quail in the bush area too. I think they were originally from the game farm.
And with it being so close to Christchurch and lots of people visiting it, have you ever had any issues with things like vandalism?
Well, not really. Surprisingly little, considering it is so close to Christchurch. We have got an interpretation panel at the car park on Summit Road, and that was damaged on one occasion, but we were intending to replace it because we had extra and different information to put on it, so that didn't really matter too much. A couple of other signs there were damaged, but really, apart from that, none of the signs in the bush have been damaged, and I can't even remember having to pick up, say, like any lolly wrappers or anything like that. So people have been very good. We do say on our interpretation panel, please take care of the bush so that it can remain open for all to enjoy. And I think people have respected that.
It sounds like you've put a lot of work into this bush, and it's a very, very special thing here for Christchurch and people to enjoy. Have you put anything in place to protect what you've created or what you have out there?
Yes, well, we have put in a place a QE2 National Trust covenant, which protects the bush in perpetuity, so there can't be any building or anything like that happen there. They've been quite supportive, though, of the work that's gone on in the bush. Before we opened it, we had to put in a foot track, and that meant that there was quite a bit of cutting back of native bush and cutting down of some trees and that sort of thing. We got members of the Summit Road Society to help us with that work, and basically what's involved is just using grubbers to make the track, and also, of course, you have to use loppers and saws for cutting back of vegetation. But they help us complete the initial track, and then we got some help from students from Lincoln University who came along, and I went up there with them. We had a couple of students, and we went and widened the track so that it was about 600 to 800 metres wide. The reason for that is that it does go through some fairly steep country, and if you don't have a reasonably wide track, people will walk on the edge of the track and break down the edge of the track. So it was important to get a reasonably wide track. We also had to cut back vegetation from the upside of the track because, if you get vegetation growing out into the track, then people just tend to walk on the edge of the track. So we tried to cut the vegetation about 300 millimetres back from the upper side of the track. And then when the vegetation grows, it can grow quite a bit before it actually has to be cut back again. And of course, over the years there's been that ongoing maintenance of doing repairs to the track and cutting back of vegetation as it grows.
So you have volunteers all the time coming in to help with that. How many kind of man hours does it take to?
Mainly my wife and I have done that work. We've gone up there every month or two and worked on the track for a day. But on a few occasions, Summit Road Society members have come and helped us with work on the track, or with some particularly big tasks to do. On one occasion, we had someone ring us up and say that they thought that there were some parts of the track were quite slippery in the winter time, and they'd be willing to help us put some shingle on the track. So we got together a few people, and with some wheelbarrows, we managed to wheel all the shingle down and spread it on the track. So that was one occasion when we had some volunteers to help us. Other work we have done some bit of spraying ourselves and with help from others, but we also have got a spraying contractor in on occasions to spray gorse and broom along the sides of the track. Basically, we've left gorse in areas where there is gorse so that regeneration will come up through it, but it's important to keep it away from the track and from spreading seeds onto the track so that seedlings grow on the track. We've also got people in with excavators to do various jobs for us, and you can get excavators that are just 1 metre wide, or obviously ones that are much bigger. We have found that they are very useful for quite a few different tasks, for making channels down the side of vehicle tracks so that water can run off, to make channels for put pipes across vehicle tracks, for doing repairs if there's been any slips. In some cases we've had to put in new sections of vehicle track. So the excavator has been useful for that, and for various other tasks that we've had.
And if someone wanted to help out the cause or join the cause, what could they do to help you?
Well, we haven't really had to call on people. We have thought maybe we could set up a Friends of Omahu Bush, but we never really got around to doing that. And actually what we did decide to do about a year ago was we did decide that we would gift Omahu Bush to the Summit Road Society, because they do have a lot of members who can work on the tracks and do any maintenance that there is to do there. So we're just in the process now of going through handing that over to them. It is subject to various conditions, and so it's a matter of completing those before we actually make the handover. One of the things we are doing is working on improving the Gibraltar Rock car park. So that's having to go through a resource consent process, which is probably rather drawn out and difficult, but we will get there eventually. And perhaps I should have mentioned that Gibraltar Rock was an area that we did purchase after we purchased the initial Gibraltar Rock area. It's a very prominent landmark that can be seen from quite a great distance, and we purchased that area, and also an area of pasture around Gibraltar Rock, which stretches from the Summit Road right down into the Otahuna Valley. So it does provide a connection from the base of the Port Hills right up to the Summit Road. And surprisingly enough, there aren't that many places along the Port Hills where there is that connection from the base of the hills right up to the summit.
Sort of how hard was it what's the process with getting a QE2 covenant? It's
not very difficult. You just apply to them, they come and look at it, and they have to decide whether they feel that it is an area that they would want to protect. So in some cases they won't want to do that, but every time that we have applied to them for the various blocks of bush that we own, we've found that they've been quite keen to have a covenant over the land.
So it sounds like a fantastic place to go and have a look. I've done some of the walks on the Summit Road Society pieces, but I haven't made it all the way to Omahu Bush, so that definitely sounds like one to check out.
Yes, well I hope you can go there sometime.